My dear friends, I've spent 40 years volunteering at Massachusetts General, and in all that time, I've witnessed countless stories of courage. But there's one that settled into my bones like a prayer you can't forget. It happened 6 months ago, involving a nurse named Eleanor Mitchell, a woman I'd known since she first walked those hospital halls back in '89. What the good Lord allowed to happen to Eleanor would test anyone's faith. Yet somehow, through the darkest valley of her life, she discovered a calling she never knew existed. Some folks say tragedy breaks you or makes you. In Eleanor's case, it transformed her into exactly who she was meant to be. This is her story, and I share it now because I believe someone needs to hear it. Perhaps you. The afternoon light filtered through the blinds in room 4B, casting soft lines across the hospital floor I knew so well. That antiseptic smell, part bleach, part something medicinal, hung in the air like always. But today was different. Eleanor Mitchell sat beside young Cassandra Torres's bed, her weathered hands working at the silk scarf around her neck. I watched from the doorway as she unwound it slowly, deliberately, like my mother used to unpeel apples in one long ribbon. The girl hadn't spoken a word in 3 days, not since the car accident. Her poor mother, Rosa, had been living on waiting room coffee and what little faith she had left. When the scarf fell away, I heard Rosa gasp behind me. Eleanor's face, mercy, how do I describe it? The right side looked like a map of suffering, deep hollows near her temple where flesh should have been, surgical scars running like dried creek beds after drought. Her right eye drooping, giving her the appearance of perpetual sorrow. But it was Cassandra's reaction that caught my breath. The young woman's visible eye didn't show horror, it showed recognition, like seeing family in a crowded station. "The doctors, bless their hearts, they'll tell you 6 months," Eleanor said, her voice steady as Sunday hymn. "They'll show you pictures of folks who healed up nice. They mean well, they truly do." A tear rolled down what we could see of Cassandra's face, disappearing into white gauze. "What they don't tell you," Eleanor continued, leaning closer, "is about that first time at the Piggly Wiggly. Some little one, maybe 4 years old, points right at you. His mama yanks his arm so hard the child cries, all while apologizing with her eyes like she's the one who hurt you." She paused, touched her scarred temple gently. "They don't mention how you'll start turning from store windows, car mirrors, that black phone screen before it lights up. Lord, that's the worst one. Shows you exactly what you're trying not to see." Cassandra's hand moved for the first time since the accident. Trembling fingers found Eleanor's damaged cheek. The touch was butterfly light, but real as bread. "How?" The word came out rusty, like a gate that hadn't opened in years. But glory be, it was a word. Eleanor covered that young hand with her own. "Would you believe it started with mosquito bites? Common mosquito bites in Louisiana swampland. 6 months passed. I was 62 years old, been nursing for 35 years, thought I'd seen everything under heaven." She glanced at Rosa, still frozen in the doorway, clutching her rosary. "After my David passed, 18 months now, I took a trip he'd always dreamed about. Wanted to see those blue herons he loved so dearly. Never imagined a few bug bites would teach me what all my years of nursing couldn't." The hospital sounds continued their familiar rhythm, the soft ping of elevators, the squeak of comfort shoes on waxed floors, someone's television playing Wheel of Fortune down the hall. But in room 4B, something holy was happening. "Tell me," Cassandra whispered. "Everything." Eleanor settled back in that uncomfortable visitor's chair, the vinyl creaking like it always did. Her scarred hand still held that young, smooth one. "Well now," she began, "it was March, and spring was trying to come early. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story." 6 months earlier, Eleanor Mitchell counted surgical supplies for the 4th time. The clipboard trembled against her palm. Numbers swam on the inventory sheet. She blinked hard, started again. 23 years she'd worked Thursday nights, and the supply room B still hummed that same note. F sharp, David had called it. perfect pitch, even with tubes down his throat. The metal shelving felt cold through her scrubs. Gauze packages, syringes in their sterile wrapping, everything exactly where it belonged. The pen scratched against paper, harsh in the quiet. "Mitchell?" Dr. Kevin Park filled the doorway, coffee stain on his coat, same spot as yesterday. "3 doubles this week. Go home." "Just finishing. The supplies aren't going anywhere." Her pen moved down the list. Saline bags, 12, 13, 12? She started over. The apartment door stuck at the deadbolt. Required her shoulder, same angle as always. The living room smelled like nobody lived there. No cooking, no coffee brewing, just lemon pledge from Tuesday's cleaning lady. David's mug sat on the kitchen windowsill. Seattle's Best Colombian Dark printed on the side, chip on the handle from when he dropped it that last good morning. 18 months, 3 days. The coffee maker's clock glowed 12:47 a.m. Sunday arrived with Rachel's key in the lock. 6:15 p.m. The lasagna from freezer to microwave, edges bubbling in exactly 4 minutes. "Smells good, Mom." Rachel dropped her leather bag on David's chair, stopped, moved it to the couch. The manila folder hit the table with a soft slap. David's handwriting on the tab, tight, careful letters. Louisiana, April. Eleanor's knife paused over the lasagna. "Found it in the storage unit." Rachel opened the folder. His bird project, yellow legal pad pages, tide charts from the Atchafalaya Basin, Ardea Herodias in David's script, the Great Blue Heron, a Southwest Airlines receipt, April 3rd, Boston to New Orleans. 3 weeks after the diagnosis. "You should go." The knife moved through pasta, precise squares. That was David's thing. "When did you last take time off?" "Christmas." 2 days doesn't count, Mom." Rachel pulled out a photograph taped to notebook paper. A heron, wings spread wide against morning sky. Below, David's cramped writing. "E. We'll see this together. Promise." The microwave beeped. Eleanor didn't move. Outside, someone's wind chimes played against March wind. No melody, just noise. The photo trembled in Rachel's extended hand. The airboat's engine died with a sputter. Silence rushed in, then the swamp started breathing. Something heavy splashed to Eleanor's left. A woodpecker hammered somewhere high. Plop of a turtle sliding off a cypress knee into black water. Marcus Thibodeau steadied the aluminum boat against the dock. Weathered hands, Louisiana dark from sun, knuckles swollen with arthritis. "First time in the basin, ma'am?" Eleanor gripped the boat's rail. David's field vest hung loose on her shoulders, sized for a man 20 pounds heavier, before the cancer ate him down. The binoculars around her neck knocked against her ribs with each sway. "Yes." Her foot found the dock. Soft wood, decades of rot. Marcus's hand appeared, steady. She took it. "Watch for cottonmouths." He pointed at a black coil sunning on cypress roots. "They don't move for nobody. Not this time of year." The air hung thick, diesel fumes from the boat mixing with algae, mud, something dead and sweet. March in Louisiana felt like August in Boston, sweat already pooling under David's vest. The boat's metal bench burned through her khakis. Marcus wrapped the pull cord around his hand. One yank, nothing. Second pull, the engine roared. Wind hit her face, hot and wet. David's Tulane baseball cap lifted off her head. Marcus caught it one-handed, passed it back. The inside band still smelled like his Head and Shoulders shampoo. Cypress trees rose from water the color of old coffee. Spanish moss hung in curtains, brushing the boat as they passed. The engine slowed near a cluster of knees jutting up like gravestones in flooded cemetery. "Your husband couldn't make it?" The binoculars pulled at her neck, heavy. "Passed. 18 months back." Marcus cut the engine completely. The boat drifted, turning slow. "What brings you out here then?" He loved the birds, the herons especially. A cloud of gnats found her immediately. In her nostrils, her ears, trying for her eyes. She waved her hand through them. They reformed instantly. Marcus handed her a white bottle, off in red letters. Won't stop them all, but helps some. The chemical smell made her eyes water. She rubbed it on her temples, behind her ears, along her hairline. Sweat washed it away before she'd finished. The insects descended, mosquitoes, gnats, things too small to see but not to feel. The mosquitoes here were wrong-sized, bigger than Boston mosquitoes. They bit through the repellent, through her long-sleeved shirt, her right temple, her hairline. Something large landed on her eyebrow. She slapped it. Blood smeared her palm, mixed with off. There now, Marcus pointed. The heron stood motionless in shallows. 4 feet of bird, maybe more. Slate blue feathers, yellow eye tracking something below the surface, neck curved in an S. Eleanor lifted David's binoculars. The weight made her arms shake. The bird filled the lenses, every feather visible, that dagger beak, the black plume trailing from its head. The strike happened between heartbeats. Beak speared down. A fish thrashed, silver sides catching light that filtered through cypress. The heron tilted its head back. The fish disappeared in one motion. Ardea Herodias. The Latin came out without thought. David's voice in her mouth. You know birds, then? My husband did. Another bite at her right temple, deeper. Her fingernail found it, scratched. Came away with blood under the nail. This one felt different, burned different. Marcus produced a tube from his tackle box, cortisone cream, the label worn off. March brings them out hungry, the mosquitoes. Here. The cream felt cool for 3 seconds, then the itching resumed, worse. That one bite at her temple, spreading heat. 40 minutes back to the dock. Her hand kept finding that bite. Each time it felt larger, hotter. Marcus apologized 3 times, offered more cream, more spray. The chemicals just made her skin feel raw. At the dock, she counted in the rental car's mirror. 7 bites on her face. Dozens on her arms through the shirt. But that one at her temple, she pressed it with her index finger, fluid under the skin. The pressure made her vision blur in her right eye, not like the others at all. Wednesday morning, 5 days since Louisiana. Eleanor's bathroom light felt like needles through her right eye. She gripped the sink edge, porcelain cold and real under her palms. The mirror showed what she'd been afraid to see. The right side of her face had swollen into something unrecognizable. Skin stretched tight, shiny like a balloon before it pops. Red streaks ran from her temple down past her jawline. Her right eye, barely a slit between swollen lids. She fumbled for the thermometer in the medicine cabinet, under her tongue. Digital numbers climbing. 98.6, 99.2, 100.4, 101.8. The beep sounded far away. 2 fingers pressed against the swelling, hot as a stove burner. The pain shot through her skull, down into her back teeth. The room tilted. She caught herself on the towel bar. Phone on the nightstand. Speed dial 3, the emergency department. Emergency, this is Janet. Janet, it's Eleanor Mitchell. Her voice came out thick, wrong. I can't come in today. Eleanor? Honey, you sound... I'm sick. Tell them I'm sick. First time in 2 years. You sure you're all right? The phone slipped. She caught it. Just tell them. Thursday. The alarm clock showed 5:07 a.m. The pain had changed. Deeper now, throbbing behind her eye with each heartbeat. She touched her face in the dark. The swelling had spread across her cheek, the skin drummed tight and burning. Bathroom. Her right eye wouldn't open. Sealed shut with yellow discharge that had dried to crust. She ran warm water on a washcloth, dabbed at her lashes. The eye cracked open. The room stayed blurry. The mirror, Lord have mercy. A stranger looked back. The swelling had turned purple-red. When she turned her head, the room kept turning after she stopped. Thermometer again. 102.3. Her phone. Rachel's number. 4 rings. 5. Mom? It's early. What's wrong? My face. The bug bites from Louisiana. What about your face? Eleanor tried to work the phone's camera, couldn't focus on the screen. Her right eye wouldn't cooperate. She pressed send anyway. Silence on the line. Then, Mom, I'm calling an ambulance. Don't be dramatic, I can… Mom, listen to me. Do not drive. Promise me. The ambulance is coming. The EMTs arrived. She heard them before she saw them. Heavy boots on her stairs. Tommy Brennan worked the Thursday night shifts. His partner, young, maybe 6 months on the job. Their faces changed when they saw her. Ms. Mitchell. Tommy's voice stayed professional, but his eyes widened. Let's get you on the gurney. The straps felt tight across her chest. The ceiling passed overhead, her own ceiling, then the hallway, then March morning sky. The ambulance smelled like rubber gloves and disinfectant. Same smell she'd known for 35 years, but from the wrong side now. Massachusetts General's emergency entrance. Her emergency entrance. The automatic doors whooshed open. Fluorescent lights stabbed through her swollen eye. Colleagues trying not to stare, failing. Is that Eleanor? What happened to… Get Harrison, now. Dr. Michael Harrison materialized above her. She'd sent him dozens of patients. Now his face wore that careful, neutral expression she knew meant trouble. Eleanor, look at me. Follow my finger. The finger blurred, split into 2, merged, split again. Her right eye wouldn't track with the left. CT scan, now. That tone. The urgent tone that meant stop everything else. The CT machine hummed its familiar tune. The table cold through her blouse. Hold perfectly still, don't move. The machine pulled her through its ring. Back out. Through again. The contrast dye burned in her veins, metallic taste in her mouth. Rachel arrived still in surgical scrubs, mask hanging around her neck. She looked at the monitor. The color drained from her face. Harrison pointed at the images. Eleanor knew enough to recognize disaster. White spots where there should be gray. Orbital cellulitis, multiple abscesses here, here, and here. His finger traced the infection's path. It's spreading along the facial planes, getting close to the optic nerve. The medical knowledge kicked in automatic. Orbital cellulitis, 15% mortality if it reaches the brain. Permanent blindness if the optic nerve dies. Sepsis if it enters the bloodstream. Time was everything. Surgery tonight, Harrison said. Not a question. We need to drain the abscesses, debride the necrotic tissue. How much tissue? Rachel's voice stayed steady, professional. The daughter underneath barely hidden. Won't know until I'm in there. Could be extensive. Pre-op. The anesthesiologist, James Reeves. She'd trained him 5 years ago. His hands shook inserting the IV. Sorry, Ms. Mitchell. It's just seeing you like this. I'm just a patient now, James. Rachel held her left hand, squeezed hard. Mom, if something happens, nothing's happening. But if it does, if you can't, I need to know what you want. Eleanor squeezed back. You decide. Whatever needs deciding. I trust you. The mask descended. Rubber smell. Oxygen hissing. Count backward from 10, Eleanor. 10, 9, 8. Rachel's face above her, lips moving. What was she saying? The words wouldn't come clear. Something about David. Something important about… The darkness rushed up faster than she expected. Weight pressed on Eleanor's face. Gauze. Tape. The morphine made everything thick. Her tongue, her thoughts, the air in her lungs. Something beeping. Always beeping in hospitals. She knew that sound, had ignored it 10,000 times from the other side. Mom? Rachel's voice, close. A chair scraping against linoleum. That particular scrape that meant someone had been sitting too long, legs gone stiff. Water. A straw touched her lips, lukewarm, metallic taste from the pipes. Her throat felt raw, The intubation tube always did that. Small sips. The water hit her empty stomach cold. The room came into focus slowly. Day 3, according to the whiteboard. Rachel still wearing yesterday's clothes, the same navy scrubs, wrinkled now. Hair pulled back in a ponytail that had given up. Dark circles under her eyes like bruises. Harrison wants to check the dressings. Footsteps in the hallway. Multiple sets. The morning rounds, she knew this rhythm. 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock. The surgical team would come in, arrange themselves in a half circle. The attending physician would do the talking while residents watched. Harrison's hands in purple nitrile gloves. The tape pulled at her skin. Each piece coming off with that particular sound, adhesive releasing from flesh. Some gauze stuck to dried drainage. He used saline to loosen it. Cold drops ran down her neck. "Looking good," Harrison said. That neutral tone doctors used. The nothing tone that meant everything. "Mirror." "Eleanor, let's wait until the swelling." "Mirror, now." Rachel pulled one from her purse. Compact, small. Her hand trembled as she held it up. Adjusted the angle. Adjusted it again. Eleanor looked. The silence in the room had weight, pressed against her chest. Made breathing work. The right side of her face was gone. Not gone, destroyed, carved out. A crater near her temple, 3 inches across, deep enough to see the shadow of bone beneath. Red surgical scars ran from temple to jaw, puckered where the stitches pulled. Her right eyelid drooped, wouldn't close properly. The corner of her mouth pulled down like she'd had a stroke. "The swelling will go down," Harrison said. "Once it does, we can discuss reconstruction. There are options." Eleanor stopped listening. The face in that mirror, that wasn't her. Couldn't be. 35 years she'd walked these halls. Been Eleanor Mitchell, head nurse, the one who knew everything, who could handle anything. This thing in the mirror was something else. "Mom?" Rachel's hand on her arm, warm, real. "Get out. Mom, please. Everyone, out, now." They filed out like scolded children, Harrison first, then the residents. Rachel stood in a doorway looking back. Her mouth opened, closed. She left. The room's quiet pressed in. Eleanor touched the crater near her temple. Her fingertips found the edge where normal skin ended and the surgical site began. The depth of it. The drainage tube still in place, running to a collection bulb half full of pink-tinged fluid. Lunch arrived at noon. Maria Santos from the kitchen. They'd worked together 15 years, every Christmas party, every potluck. Maria's face did the thing, that careful nothing expression while her eyes went everywhere except Eleanor's face. "Brought your favorite, that chicken soup from the cafeteria." "Leave it." "Eleanor, if you need anything, just leave it." The soup went cold. A skin formed on top. Dinner came at 6. Different aid, same careful not looking. The meatloaf and mashed potatoes congealed into something gray. Night came. The morphine wore off between doses. 4 hours became 3, then 2. Pain crashed through in waves, not just the surgical site. Deeper, behind her eye, in her jaw, down her neck. Dreams of David, his face turning away, his hand pulling back when she reached for him. Waking to remember David was dead, had been dead 18 months, would always be dead. And now she was this patient, this thing that needed tending. Rachel slept in the visitor's chair, had been there 3 nights now. Eleanor watched her in the darkness. Her daughter, the surgeon, the competent one, having to see her mother like this, ruined, needy, taking up a bed that someone else could use. 4 in the morning, the bathroom called. Eleanor pressed the call button, stopped, couldn't face another colleague, another face trying not to see her face. She swung her legs out, the IV pole for support, cold floor through hospital socks. Shuffled forward. The bathroom door was closed, darker inside. Light switch, fluorescent flicker, then harsh brightness. The mirror over the sink. Full face this time, no angle to hide behind. The sound that came from her throat wasn't quite a sob, wasn't quite a scream, something between. Movement behind her, someone in her room. Wrong footsteps, not a nurse's soft-soled shoes. She pushed the bathroom door open. A teenager stood by her bed, eating from a bag of chips, orange dust on his fingers. "Sorry, ma'am, wrong floor." The kid's voice cracked on floor. 16, maybe 17. Looking for the vending machines. Orange dust from his chips covered his fingertips. He wiped them on his jeans, leaving streaks. The left side of his face, burn scars from jaw to forehead. The skin pulled tight, shiny like melted wax, yanking his mouth into a permanent half-smile. He didn't stare at Eleanor's face, didn't look away either, just looked at her like he'd look at anyone standing in a doorway at 4 in the morning. Having a hard time? He crumpled the empty chip bag, stuffed it in his pocket. Eleanor's hand went to her temple, found the crater, the drainage tube. "You could say that. Mind if I sit?" He didn't wait for an answer, dropped into Rachel's chair. The vinyl squeaked. Jake Morrison, house fire 2 years back, grease fire in the kitchen, tried to be a hero with a cup of water. His phone came out. The screen's brightness made Eleanor squint. Photos. His thumb swiped across them. Spring formal last month. The picture showed Jake in a dark suit, burn scars visible, his arm around a pretty blonde girl, both smiling. Real smiles, not posed ones. "That's Ashley, my girlfriend." Another swipe. "Met her after, 6 months after the fire." Swipe. "Basketball team, I'm point guard." Another photo, Jake in mid-jump, ball leaving his fingertips. "Rock climbing at Rumney last week." Eleanor moved closer. The IV pole's wheels squeaked on the linoleum. In every photo, the scars were there. Part of his face. But not the point of the pictures. Just there, while life happened around them. How? The word came out before she could stop it. How do I do normal things? Date? Play ball? Show my face at Stop and Shop? She nodded. First month was bad. Real bad. Jake pulled his feet up, cross-legged in the chair like a kid. Wanted to die. Prayed for it, if I'm honest. Mom wouldn't let me. Dragged me to this support group. I mean, literally dragged. She's 5'0" but strong when she needs to be. Another photo appeared. A church basement. Folding chairs in a circle. 7 or 8 people, various ages. Burns. Surgical scars. Port wine birthmarks. All looking at the camera. All smiling. Patricia Winters runs it. His finger pointed to a woman in the center. Late 40s, maybe 50. A birthmark covered the left side of her face, deep purple like spilled wine. She's a therapist, married 23 years, 3 kids. Says the face is just the wrapping paper, the gift's inside. Easy for her to say. That's what I said. Exact words, actually. Then she introduced me to Marcus. Another photo. A man missing half his face. Iraq, Jake explained. 10th grade history teacher now. Kids call him Iron Man. He says the scars give him street cred. Rachel stirred in the corner where she'd moved to sleep on the floor. Opened her eyes, saw Jake. "Who are you?" "Jake was just leaving," Eleanor said quickly. "Room 3B, Tuesday nights at 7. Jake stood, knees popping. "If you want, no pressure. But here's the thing. Tuesday's coming whether you show up or not." He headed for the door, stopped, turned back. "That first Tuesday, I wore a ski mask. In July. Patricia just looked at me and said, 'Must be hot under there.' That's all. Didn't make me take it off. I sat there sweating for an hour. Came back the next week without it." He left. The smell of those chips lingered, cheese powder and salt. "Who was that?" Rachel rubbed her eyes, mascara smeared. "Some kid. Lost, I think." "Mom!" Rachel stood, stretched. "You're almost smiling." "Am I?" Morning brought Harrison with new CT scans. The white spots on the images meant more infection, more pockets of bacteria the antibiotics couldn't reach. "We need to go back in," he said. "Tomorrow morning. There's infection here." His finger traced the image. "And here." Eleanor stared at the scans. More surgery meant more tissue removal, more of her face carved away. "Schedule it," she heard herself say. But what Jake had said kept echoing. "Tuesday's coming whether you show up or not." Local anesthetic made Eleanor's face numb, but not gone. She could feel the pressure of Harrison's hands, the tug of instruments. The surgical drape blocked her view. Blue paper, the same kind she'd arranged over patients 1,000 times. "Feel anything sharp?" Harrison's voice, muffled through his mask. "No." "Good. Starting now." Metal clicked against metal, the wet sound of suction. Harrison talking to the resident, teaching while cutting. "See this pocket? All necrotic, has to come out." Tugging at her temple, deep pressure but no pain. Then the smell, cauterized tissue, burning meat. Her meat. The smoke rose visible past the drape. "Healthy tissue here, we'll preserve this." More tugging, something scraping. The sound traveled through her skull bones, vibrating in her teeth. Bone. He was scraping bone. Irrigating, cold saline ran into her ear, pooled in the hollow of her neck. The suction gurgled it away. 2 hours of this, awake, listening to her face being carved. Week 2, physical therapy room. Maria Santos sat across from Eleanor. This Maria had survived a stroke at 45, half her face still frozen, but working here, teaching others. "Show me a smile." Eleanor tried. The right side wouldn't move. Dead muscles. "Smaller. Just think about smiling. Don't force it." A twitch. The corner of her mouth moved a millimeter. "Good. Again." Pursing lips, raising eyebrows, trying to close her right eye. It wouldn't seal. Eye drops every hour to prevent the cornea from drying, cracking, ulcerating. "Massage helps," Maria demonstrated on her own face, circular motions along the jaw. "Wakes up the nerves." Eleanor's fingers on her face. Wrong texture everywhere. Ridges, valleys. The crater, smaller now, but still there, still deep. Tuesday night, Rachel drove. Parked outside First Methodist. "Sure about this?" "No." Church basement. 7 metal folding chairs. Coffee and paper cups, the industrial kind, bitter and burnt. Store-bought cookies on a paper plate, vanilla wafers going stale. Patricia Winters wasn't what Eleanor expected. The birthmark covered half her face, port wine purple, but she wore her hair pulled back. Red lipstick. Laughing at something the man next to her said. "New face?" Patricia smiled. "Not fake bright. Real." "Welcome. Coffee's terrible, but it's hot." Circle introductions. First name and 1 sentence. "Tom. Car accident 3 years ago." "Susan. Dog attack last summer." "Marcus. IED in Kandahar." "Betty. Bell's palsy that never resolved." "Patricia. Born this way." Eleanor's turn. "Eleanor. Nurse. Infection from bug bites." Nobody pushed for more. The talk was practical. Which concealer covered scars best? Dermablend, everyone agreed. Job interviews. When to mention the face, when not to. Dating. The woman with burns laughed, said her husband had to relearn her body in the dark, kept touching the wrong side. Week 4. Shaw's Supermarket. Eleanor wore sunglasses inside. Rachel pushed the cart. "Mom, you don't need those." "I need them." Produce section, checking tomatoes. A child in the next cart, 4, maybe 5, pointing straight at her. "Mommy, that lady's face is broken." The mother's horror, grabbing the child's hand. "Oh God, I'm so sorry, we don't." Eleanor pulled off the sunglasses, knelt to the child's level. His eyes went wide but not scared, curious. "I was sick, very sick. The doctors helped me get better." The child studied her, reached in his pocket, pulled out goldfish crackers in a plastic bag, held them out. For feeling better? Eleanor took one, orange and salty on her tongue. Thank you. Week 6. Hospital hallway. Not working. Visiting. The stares from colleagues, some too bright, some looking at walls, floors, anywhere but her face. Kevin Park found her by the elevators. Mitchell, finally! These new nurses don't know anything. When you coming back? I don't know if I am. That's ridiculous. Place is falling apart. We need you. Kevin, look at me. I am looking. See Eleanor Mitchell, best ER nurse we have. Different face, sure, but Mrs. Rodriguez in bed 3 doesn't care what you look like when you're starting her IV. Week 7. Computer screen showing Sister Carol calling from San Diego. FaceTime. Eleanor's finger hovering over accept. Pressed it. Carol's face appeared, then froze. Sweet Jesus, El. The words hit cold. I know. No, I mean, Jesus, what you've been through. But you're still you, still there. Am I? More than before, maybe. Tougher on the outside now. David would say you finally look as tough as you've always been. That night, Eleanor opened David's journal. Blank pages. His pen still worked. She wrote about Louisiana, about the herons he never saw, about the face in the mirror she was learning to recognize, about the people in the basement on Tuesdays. The pen stopped mid-sentence, a thought forming. What if this face wasn't the end, but... Week 10. Pre-op waiting room. Eleanor sat beside Mrs. Chen, 83, scheduled for hip replacement. The woman's hands shook, holding the consent forms. Knuckles swollen with arthritis, wedding ring embedded in flesh after 60 years. The anesthesia, Mrs. Chen whispered. What if I don't wake up? Eleanor's hand covered the older woman's. Skin, paper thin, liver spots like islands on a map. The trembling traveled up Eleanor's arm. I've been under twice, recent. The waking is gentle, like coming up from deep water, slow and warm. Mrs. Chen studied Eleanor's face, the scars, the asymmetry, the drooping eye. You understand scared? Yes. They sat 20 minutes. Mrs. Chen's trembling stopped. When they wheeled her away, she squeezed Eleanor's scarred hand. Word spread somehow. Other patients waiting. Eleanor talked to them, not as a nurse, as someone who'd been on those gurneys, felt that ice-cold terror. Thursday afternoon, Harrison called Eleanor at home. There's someone, Jennifer Walsh, 34, maxillofacial tumor, benign but massive. Tomorrow's surgery. She's not handling it. Room 218 smelled like fear sweat and the lilies someone had brought. Jennifer Walsh sat on the bed's edge, thin, shadows under her eyes, brown hair pulled back so tight it stretched her skin, photos spread across the hospital blanket. Lily. Her finger traced a girl in a soccer uniform. 7. James. A boy holding a plastic dinosaur. 5. Olivia. Toddler in a princess dress, chocolate on her chin. Just turned 2. Jennifer looked up, saw Eleanor's face clearly. Her hand went to her mouth. Oh, God, I didn't mean to stare. You did. It's okay. Eleanor sat on the bed. The mattress sagged, springs creaked. Tell me what scares you most. Everything. Jennifer's voice cracked. The surgery, recovery, but mostly... She picked up Olivia's photo. What if my babies don't recognize me? What if they're scared? What if my husband Tom pretends everything's fine but can't look at me, can't touch me? What if I become this thing they have to deal with instead of their mom? Eleanor took the photo. Olivia's face, pure joy, gap-toothed smile, arms reaching for whoever held the camera. When Olivia falls, what does she want? Me. Middle of the night, bad dream? Me. When she learns something new, a word, a color, who does she run to? Me. Always me. That won't change. Your face changes, not what you are to her. How can you know that? Eleanor's fingers found her own scars, traced the geography of damage, the valley near her temple, the ridge where they'd grafted skin. 10 days after my first surgery, tried to smile in the mirror. The muscles wouldn't work. Nothing moved right. Her hand pressed flat against her cheek. 35 years I'd been a nurse. Thought I understood patients, their fear, their pain. She felt the raised scar tissue under her palm, the numb spots where nerves had died. I understood nothing. I knew symptoms, treatments, protocols. Not this. Not waking up as someone else. Not the mirror becoming your enemy. Not choosing between hiding forever or letting people see. Jennifer grabbed Eleanor's hand, squeezed hard, bones grinding. But your children, they need their mother. Not her face. Her arms still work? Her voice? The way she smells like vanilla extract because she bakes cookies even when she's tired. That's their mother. People will stare at them because of me. Yes, they will. And your children will learn that staring doesn't kill you. They'll learn that different isn't less. They'll watch you show up anyway. That's the gift you'll give them. Will you be here? Tomorrow? When I wake up? I'll be here. That evening, Thai restaurant on Cambridge Street. Eleanor hadn't eaten out since the surgeries. The waiter's eyes went to her face, away, back, away. Rachel pretended not to notice. Mom, you're different. My face is... No, you. You're bigger somehow, fuller. Eleanor set down her chopsticks. They clicked against the ceramic plate. I want to go back to work. Of course, when you're ready. Different work, new position. Patient experience coordinator. For facial trauma, reconstruction patients. Rachel stopped eating, listened. The space between medical treatment and human experience, someone who's been there, who can sit with them, not with statistics, with truth. The hospital needs that. I need that. Eleanor pulled out David's journal, showed Rachel the page she'd written. You saw birds I missed. Patient teacher, always pointing them out. I was blind to my own patients. Their terror was just another symptom to manage. These scars, they're my binoculars now. I see what I couldn't before. Had to lose my face to find my purpose. Monday morning, administration office, fluorescent lights, coffee getting cold in paper cups. Eleanor's 2-page proposal on the table. Harrison had been advocating. The CFO listened. The chief of staff took notes. When could you start? The CFO asked. Eleanor touched her scarred temple. 2 weeks? They agreed. Handed her paperwork. Official title, salary, office assignment. Walking to her car, Eleanor caught her reflection in a window. Stopped. Really looked. The stranger in the glass looked back. Not a stranger anymore. Room 4B. The same antiseptic smell. Bleach and that particular hospital disinfectant that never changed. Cassandra Torres's fingers still rested on Eleanor's scarred cheek. Light as moth wings. The first human touch the girl had accepted since the accident. Louisiana. Eleanor kept her voice level. 6 months ago. Bug bites turned to streptococcus infection. Orbital cellulitis. 2 surgeries while awake. Listening to them scrape bone. She told it straight. No comfort padding. The fever, the tissue dying. Harrison's scalpel removing pieces of her face like spoiled fruit. The drainage tubes. The mirror showing a stranger. 7 days in. This kid showed up eating chips. Jake Morrison. Half his face burned off. Showed me pictures on his phone. Prom, basketball, rock climbing. Living his life with that face. Eleanor pulled out her phone. Found the photo Jake sent last week. College orientation at Boston University. Scars visible. Genuine smile. Ashley beside him, her hand on his scarred cheek. That's him now. Pre-med. Full scholarship. Movement in the doorway. Rosa Torres had been standing there 10 minutes. 3 days in the same clothes, coffee stains on her sleeve, rosary wrapped around her wrist so tight it left marks. "Mija?" Rosa's whisper barely reached them. Cassandra didn't turn away, didn't hide. Rosa approached like approaching broken glass. 6 months. Cassandra's voice came out rusty. "Doctors say better in 6 months." "They told me that too." Eleanor shifted, making room for Rosa on the bed. 6 months came. Face didn't get better, got different. But I got better, stronger, found out what I was supposed to do. Rosa's hand hovered near her daughter's bandaged cheek, afraid. Eleanor took Rosa's hand, guided it to Cassandra's unbandaged skin. Mother touching daughter. First time in 3 days. "Your girl's still here," Eleanor told Rosa. "Same soul, different wrapper." Cassandra made a sound, half laugh, half sob. "Wrapper?" Patricia Winters calls faces gift wrap. We're all presents, just wrapped different. She told them about Tuesday nights, church basement, terrible coffee that tasted like burnt rubber, stale vanilla wafers, real talk about job interviews with scars, sex after disfigurement, how to eat soup when half your mouth doesn't work right. First meeting, wore sunglasses, indoors, at night. Patricia just said, "Those must be special sunglasses." Made everyone laugh. Not mean, just true. "Tuesdays?" Cassandra asked. "You'll come with me?" "Every Tuesday you need." 6 months later, December, Tuesday night. First Methodist's basement. Folding chairs in a circle, 15 now, Eleanor leading. Patricia had moved to Austin to care for her mother. Cassandra sat across the circle, scars visible but faded to pale lines. Skin graft on her cheek, slightly different texture, catching the overhead light different. She was talking to a new member, woman, 40s, fresh from surgery. "First month is hardest," Cassandra said. "Everything feels wrong. Mirror feels like an enemy, but it shifts. Not easier, different." Jake Morrison walked in, winter break from BU, brought Ashley. She kissed his scarred cheek, natural as breathing. "Got in." He showed Eleanor his phone. "Mass General, med school, full ride. Essay was about the fire, about learning that healing isn't going backward." Eleanor's office, small, one window facing the parking garage, but hers. The nameplate read, "Patient Experience Coordinator, Facial Difference Program." One wall covered in photos, David's Herons from Louisiana, support group members at milestones, Jennifer Walsh at Lily's school play, smiling wide despite the facial asymmetry, Mrs. Chen's monthly cards. "Just checking in, dear." Phone rang. Harrison. "New patient, 22. Motorcycle versus guardrail. Facial reconstruction tomorrow. He's not coping." "Room?" 312. The walk down the hall, staff nodding. Some still stared. Didn't matter. Room 312. The kid in the bed, face wrapped. Parents in plastic chairs holding hands across the space between them. That particular exhaustion of day 3 in the hospital. Eleanor knocked, entered. No scarf to remove, just her face. "I'm Eleanor Mitchell. 6 months ago I thought my life was over. Thought this face meant I was over. Let me tell you about Louisiana. About bug bites. About discovering that broken doesn't mean worthless." The young man's visible eye found her scars, studied them. His breathing slowed. "Tell me," he whispered. Eleanor pulled the chair close enough he could see every scar, every imperfection, every line of the map that led her here. "It started in a swamp, looking for birds I'd never see. Last Tuesday, I visited the support group Eleanor now leads. 23 people filled that church basement, more than Patricia ever had. I watched Eleanor work with a young father whose face was reconstructed after an industrial accident. She didn't offer empty comfort. She showed him her scars, told him about grocery stores and mirrors, and learning to let his children see him struggle. Eleanor told me something remarkable. She wouldn't change what happened. Not the infection, not the surgeries, not the months of learning to live in a transformed body. Because without Louisiana, without those mosquito bites that destroyed her face, she would never have discovered her calling. 35 years as a nurse, she thought she understood suffering. It took becoming a patient, broken, terrified, dependent, to learn that healing isn't about going back to who you were. It's about becoming who you're meant to be. Sometimes the Lord uses strange tools to shape us. For Eleanor, it was bacteria from a swamp. This is a work inspired by real medical cases, created solely for entertainment purposes. This story does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence or harmful behavior. All characters and events are products of the author's imagination, and any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental. Medical details have been simplified for narrative purposes and should not be considered medical advice. If you or someone you know faces similar challenges, please seek support from qualified medical and mental health professionals. The story aims to inspire hope and resilience in those facing medical trauma and appearance differences.